You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Looking for these better days.
It is Thursday, July 9th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. The World Cup quarterfinals gets underway with France taking on Morocco. Plus, the NBA Summer League gets underway today in Las Vegas. Jake Hassan will talk some Major League Baseball coming up in a little bit on this episode of Better Day presented by FanDuel. But we start with the World Cup quarterfinals, which begin today. France taking on Morocco. 4 o'clock Eastern time is the game time from Foxborough, Massachusetts. Here's the odds courtesy of our friends over at the FanDuel Sportsbook, and I'll give you everything on this game. The odds to advance, as well as the three-way line and some team props as well that I am very, very interested in. Here's the odds to advance. France minus 430, Morocco plus 320. Your three-way line, this is your regulation three-way line. France minus 175, Morocco plus 550, the draw plus 280. Now, here's a fun bet up on FanDuel. They offer a moneyline three-way 2-up early payout. And the full details on this bet say, quote, your bet will be paid out in full if your team is winning by 2 goals in 90 minutes plus stoppage time, regardless if your selection goes on to draw or lose the game. If your selection is leading by 2 goals and goes on to win the match, your bet will not be paid as a winner twice. So you get paid out as soon as they have a 2-goal lead. Your odds on that is France minus 185, Morocco plus 500, and yes, there is a draw plus 280, but I'm not sure how that works if there's there can't be a 2-up there, so have to read a little bit more into that. But I do think that's interesting. You get minus 185 on France, so it's juiced more than the minus 175. But if France is up 2 goals at any point, you just get paid out regardless of how the game finishes. And I guess maybe that's interesting on Morocco. Like, imagine having that same bet on the Egypt game against Argentina. And Egypt's up 2 goals. You win your bet at, whatever it was. It was much more than plus 500, right? Because Argentina was minus 800 in regulation. So think about that. You could have had your payout already on Egypt, and then it didn't matter that they went on to lose the game because you got the early payout. Very interesting. I might have to take a look a little bit more at that market up on FanDuel, but that's what we have here for today's match between France and Morocco. You guys know I love doing the team total bets here. So your France team total over 1.5 is minus 132. Now, up until the last game in the round of 16, France had gone over this number in every single match of this World Cup. 3 against Senegal, 3 against Iraq, 4 goals against Norway, and 3 against Sweden. But against Paraguay in the round of 16, it was a 1-0 victory thanks to a Kylian Mbappe penalty. So do I go back to the well with the over 1.5 here on the France team total? I do think that they're certainly talented enough to score. We know that. But will Morocco concede 2 goals? Morocco only allowed more than 1 goal in this tournament in 1 game, and that was a meaningless game against Haiti when they won 4-2. Back when these two nations faced in the semifinal of the 2022 World Cup, France beat Morocco 2-0. And could history repeat itself? Maybe it can. But should Morocco pull off an upset here, you look at the path moving forward, they would have to face Spain, likely. Spain is your second favorite to win the tournament at plus 360, but Morocco plus 2,700 to win the World Cup. If they get by France here, then they have to face the winner of Spain-Belgium, and then you're in the final. So is that 27-1 going to pay out more than, the money line rollover for each game? Well, you got to figure they're plus 320 here in this match, and likely similar, if not a little bit shorter dogs in the next match against, likely Spain or Belgium. So let's call it like, I don't know, plus 250 or so. So it's like 10 to 1 or 11 to 1 odds. The math has it for them just to get past France and then past the Spain-Belgium winner if you do the money line rollover. But then you're in the final. And will you get a chance to make more than 27 to 1 on your initial investment? But at that point, you just don't have to bet the final. And you can just take your 11 to 1 victory. So it gets very interesting when you talk about the futures market versus a money line rollover. I'm just trying to do the math here real quick while recording. But I do think Morocco is a live dog, but France, there's a reason why they are the overwhelming favorites to win this World Cup. I don't know if I can get on a side here, but I do think that we see France score more than a goal. So give me France over 1.5 goals in this one. Coming up tomorrow, we'll get more of a preview on the Spain-Belgium game for tomorrow, and then the 2 Saturday games, Norway versus England and Argentina versus Switzerland. Also tomorrow, AJ Hoffman will join us on the pod as we will get a preview of the UFC event coming up this weekend, the return of Conor McGregor. That's right, McGregor versus Holloway 2 coming up on Saturday. I still can't believe that this is actually happening, but AJ Hoffman will join us tomorrow to give a preview of that fight and the rest of the card with his best bets. NBA Summer League action begins today here in Las Vegas. The Rookie of the Year market has just completely flipped in the past couple of days. Darren Peterson has a monster performance in early Summer League action, and the market changes on him, and then all of a sudden Boozer climbs back up. So it's gone back and forth between Boozer and Darren Peterson. Current odds right now up on FanDuel, Boozer is a plus 250 favorite, Darren Peterson next at plus 270, and then number 1 overall pick AJ DeBanza at plus 470, and Darius Acuff Jr. at plus 500. And tonight, we will get our first glance at AJ DeBanza versus Darren Peterson as the Washington Wizards take on the Utah Jazz. Current lineup on FanDuel, Jazz minus 1.5, your total 186.5. The last time we saw these two on the court together, it was when Kansas defeated BYU. Peterson had 18 points, DeBanza had 17 points in that game. Also today, the Warriors take on the Mavericks, so Dusty May and his former Michigan standout Morez Johnson will go up against another former Michigan standout, Yaxel Lendeborg. Also, we will have the Kings taking on the Clippers, where Darius Acuff Jr. and Keaton Wagler will face off against each other. It's certainly going to be an exciting week plus here in Vegas, where we do expect the Rookie of the Year market to fluctuate each and every day because we know it's reactionary, of course. Yesterday in Major League Baseball, Dylan Cease took a no-hitter into the 9th inning in the Blue Jays' 10-0 win over the Giants. He lost that no-hit bid in the 9th inning. And Tigers legend Justin Verlander announced that this will be, in fact, his final season. He will retire at the end of the year. Now turning to today's slate in Major League Baseball, here's our very own Jake Hassan.
All right, Thursday slate, a little bit smaller as usual, but we do have a couple of games to get to on this Thursday, a couple of day games, and we'll just run right through a couple of them here, starting with the first game of the day, Braves and Pirates. Mitch Keller going for the Buccos against Bryce Elder for the Braves. The Braves, who have been ice cold lately, are starting to really slip in the NL East and give up a lot of ground. Now the Marlins and the Phillies both breathing down Atlanta's neck, and I'm going to continue to just fade this team, but I'm not super invested in Mitch Keller. I'm not a huge believer in him. I'm just going to go with the over 9 in this one between two pitchers who have a little bit of trouble keeping the ball in the yard, and Bryce Elder has completely regressed from his early season success. I want to go against him for sure, even with a Pirates depleted lineup that's now missing Connor Griffin as well as O'Neal Cruz. Over 9 is fine for me and the Braves and the Pirates. I think that can get there pretty easily with these two pitchers who have both been struggling, as I mentioned. In a similar game, David Peterson going for the Cubs, the start to his Chicago tenure has not been good. He has gotten lit up in the last couple of times out, especially the last time out for the Cubs. So I'm going to side with the Orioles here. I think minus 126 on the money line is a perfectly fine price to pay. And I'm also going to go with the Orioles team total over in this game as well. Just continue to fade David Peterson. Like I said, last time out, he was absolutely brutal for the Cubs. He has not been much better as a Cub than he was as a Met. Classic spot here that I've been kind of liking. This actually has been something I've been playing for a little bit during this season. Going to go with the White Sox in a spot where they are in a position to avoid the sweep. They dropped the first couple games to Boston in the first 2 games of the series, and now with a chance to avoid the sweep before they welcome the Athletics to town. So I'm going to take the White Sox on the money line to avoid the sweep. This game is sitting, floating around just about a pick. White Sox slight favorites in most places. So I'll go with Chicago to avoid the sweep against Boston here before they get set for a weekend series against the formerly Oakland, now just the Athletics. Mentioned the Marlins earlier, mentioned that they are gaining ground in the NL East. They have clawed right into that division as Atlanta has been sliding. Still in third place, but within shouting distance, just a couple of games back now for that division title. So the Marlins, who are playing really, really good baseball lately, still going to keep fading the Mariners. The Marlins are home dogs, plus 120 right now with Jansen Junk on the mound, who has been pretty good so far for the Fish. And Bryce Miller, he's been solid. He's been excellent at times for Seattle, but I'm going to fade him here. Seattle, trouble playing on the road, not a great road team. They've been ice cold. I think that the Marlins here with plus money is a good bit of value for them, and I think as home dogs, it's an easy spot to want to back them. I'm going to go over 9.5 with the Phillies and the Reds going to Cincinnati. Great American Small Park. We know how the ball flies out there. Jesus Luzardo has been up and down as he has been for most of his career, but I think in this Cincinnati ballpark, they could get to him. Sal Stewart starting to turn it around and get on one of his hot streaks, mini runs here. So I'm going to go fading Luzardo, and I'm also going to fade Brady Singer in Cincinnati as well. I think even though it's 9.5, big number, but still a decent number that we can get to, especially in that ballpark. I'm also going to go with the Cardinals as home dogs, as well as they are in a position with Andre Payante on the mound, who has been really good for them. He's been their guy. He's been maybe the best starter on the St. Louis staff. And as the Brewers start to pull away in the NL Central, I still think the Cardinals, with their playoff hopes alive, J.J. Weatherholt leading the charge, of course, and he's on track for Rookie of the Year, especially now with the Connor Griffin injury. But I'll back Payante. I'll back St. Louis. After they pull off the win on Wednesday night, I think that they can go ahead and get the series win here in St. Louis with their best pitcher on the mound. Really, really small total in Angels and Rangers. Makes sense given the pitching matchup with Nathan Eovaldi, who has started to look stronger. He's going deeper into games at least, and the strikeout stuff has for the most part been there, especially recently. And Reed Detmers, we know that he's auditioning for a spot with new teams. We know that the Angels have mentioned his name, and his name has been floated around a lot in trade talks and in trade rumors. So Detmers possibly auditioning in maybe his last Angels start. Totals at 7, juice to the over. I actually kind of like the first 5 under with these two pitchers who have been pitching well on the mound. I mean, maybe Detmers ends up a Ranger. Who knows? We could see what happens there. But I expect Detmers to pitch well, and I think Eovaldi continues his string of pretty strong starts as Texas tries to stay alive in that AL West and wrestle control back from Seattle in the AL West. Final game on the slate is Diamondbacks and Padres. Merrill Kelly and Griffin Canning. I kind of think you're getting a little bit of value with Arizona. Just Kelly is someone I trust a little bit more than Canning, but I also think the over here. Neither of these pitchers has been particularly strong lately. Over 8.5, you're already seeing juice. I think minus 120 is a fine price to pay in that game. Two pitchers who I don't have a lot of confidence in, and even though San Diego and Arizona both have had mostly disappointing offenses, still think that the over 8.5 in the game can get there. Really quick on a futures note for everybody, just as we've run through the small Thursday card here, but really fast, just want to hit a futures note for everyone. The more that I look at this American League, the more that I do think that it's kind of just wide open. I want nothing to do with the Yankees, especially if Aaron Judge is going to continue to be out and the pitching is going to look like this. I have no faith whatsoever in the Yankees, and I am starting to believe that maybe the Rays are more and more of a contender. I don't know that they win the World Series because, the Dodgers exist, but I'm starting to believe that this is a Rays team that could get to the World Series and win the pennant here. So I do think that they are starting to be a real threat in that one. Nick Kurtz leaves the game on Wednesday with an illness, but still think that as he starts to get on this cold streak and it starts to extend, I still am trying to beat Yordan Alvarez, minus 155 for the MVP. Guy still is just DHing, and the only DH we've ever seen win the MVP still, Shohei Ohtani. And so I still think that Alvarez needs to keep up this historic pace, but if he slips just a little bit, I still think that Kurtz at plus 550 is where the value is, at least for me. That's just my 2 cents there. You've also started to see Rock Chalowski's name drift a little bit, talking some MLB draft for the upcoming weekend. Grady Emerson's the favorite to go first overall. I still think that this is smoke and mirrors. I think the White Sox know what they're going to do. I think they know that Chalowski is the way to go. I think we're just getting bored because Chalowski's been the top overall college prospect for the last couple of years, the top prospect for this draft for the last couple of years, and people are starting to get just a little bored. So Chalowski as the second favorite now, and I do think that there's a little bit of value on Vaughn Lackey at plus 350 as well, just because college hitter, pro-ready hitter, can play multiple positions. If the White Sox truly are off Rock Chalowski, I think they're going to go with another college bat. I don't think they're going to go with Grady Emerson, the high schooler. I think it would be Vaughn Lackey out of Georgia Tech, because the White Sox know their window is opening now, and a college hitter is going to get to the majors maybe even as soon as next year, faster than a high school prospect. So just my 2 cents on the upcoming MLB draft this weekend as well. But that's it for all the baseball. I'm Jake Hassan at DJ Hassan on Twitter. Hassan_Jake on Instagram is where you can find me, and we'll see you for the next one.
All right, there you have it. The latest from Jake Hassan. His episode of Off the Board streamed yesterday on the Better Day Twitter and YouTube page. You can listen to that podcast right here on this Better Day podcast feed. Another episode coming up tomorrow alongside Colby Marchio. As a reminder, you can follow us across your social media platforms. Just search for Better Day. Keep it locked into everything we have going up on betterday.com. Look out, because the Better Day app is coming very, very soon. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.